from Washington, Senator Hammer presents Senate Amendment A. Chair is there. Senator from Washington, Senator Hammer has moved the majority not to pass Committee Amendment A before. Is this the pleasure of the Senate? Chair recognizes the Senator from Washington, Senator Hammer.
Mr. President, I present Senate Amendment A, with the filing number S-287, Committee Amendment A, and move its adoption. And would like to speak
Senator from Washington, Senator Hammer presents Senate Amendment A with filing number of S-287, Committee Amendment A, and moves its adoption. The Secretary will read Senate Amendment A.
Senate Amendment A is filed with
Chair understands Senator from Washington, Senator Hammer moves further reading of Senate Amendment A and dispense with it. The Senator may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen of the Senate. This budget gets started the first week in January. 5 months, 1 week ago. We divided it into committee reports, sent it out to various committees, getting started with public hearings on the budget, 3rd week of February. In order to keep things moving, going full well, the taxation portion is going to be the hardest part of it. We finished up public hearings in March. And since then, there's been a lot of compromising. A lot of work by the committee, a lot of work by the policy committees. We listened, we put it together as best as we possibly could. So here's the final product. This evening. As a birthday present, I really appreciate it when we get this thing done.
Chair recognizes the Senator from Senator Valentine.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Mr. President, I just wanted to clarify, are we talking about the amendment that was just offered, or is the discussion on the majority report that we're
Clarification, I believe that we're now discussing Senate Amendment A.
only Senate Amendment A? Thank you very much.
Now the pledge of the Senate. It's now the pledge of the Senate. It's off Senate Amendment A. Let's vote. The Chair recognizes the Senator from Washington, Senator Hammer.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I present Senate Amendment B, filing number S-288, Committee Amendment A, and move its adoption. And here again, I'd like to speak.
Senator from Washington, Senator Hammer presents Senate Amendment B with filing number S-288, Committee Amendment A, and moves its adoption. Secretary will read. Secretary will read Senate Amendment B.
Senate Amendment B is the filing number of S-288.
The Chair understands the Senator from Washington, Senator Hammer moves further reading of Senate Amendment. The Senate Amendment is dispensed with. The Senator may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll keep my remarks to this amendment. This is a technical amendment to a portion of the budget to quadruple the section, which is the putting in the work program, and basically this technical amendment three changes that clarify that. Thank you, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes Senator from New York, Senator Valentino.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, men and women of the Senate, majority budget. As we are all aware, the Appropriations Committee did not reach a unanimous recommendation. This amendment decreases the income tax rate for all taxpayers in a fair and equitable way. It makes changes to general assistance formulas into the welfare cliff, plus adds additional money to support Maine's emergency shelter infrastructure. It expands upon what we did in the majority budget by further increasing the homestead exemption, and instead of capping the exemption on military pensions, it removes it entirely. I also rise today to lend my support to the budget that we have before us. But in true Maine tradition, I must start to speak with the story. When I was first elected to the other body 11 years ago, it was early in the morning before session, and I was alone in the chamber when the head of taxation walked in. For all of us old-timers, we can remember when we actually got a printed copy of the budget. So I walked up to him with my budget in hand and asked him a question on the elderly tax borough credit. He took one look at my budget that was all color-coded, highlighted, and tabbed, and asked with surprise, "Did you actually read that?" Which I responded that we were told in the caucus last night to read the budget and see if we had any questions. Almost laughing at me, he said, "I'm really impressed, but no one actually reads the budget." Well, I am here to say that the Appropriations Committee not only read the 700 pages of the budget, but we agonized over every line that went into the budget. Why? Because the budget is not about the individual members of the committee. It is for the Maine people. That is why I am proud of the work done on the budget and the end product. I have been fortunate to work side by side with two highly respected senators. I want to commend the good Senate Chair from Oxford. Even though we have served together in the legislature for 11 years, I have never had the opportunity to serve on a committee with him. I found we worked extremely well together. We both like to start on time, think in a very linear way, and like to get to the point very quickly. Although he would say that I use a lot more words than he does to get to the point. I have also been fortunate to previously serve on the Workforce Committee with the Senator from Kennebec. And he always brings a wealth of negotiating skills, steadiness, and intellect to every discussion and debate. I support the majority report and the amendment that is offered, and I wish to mention a few of the good things that are in this. This is a real meat and potatoes budget. It provides an additional $8 million for K through 12 education, $8 million for the community colleges, $9.4 million for the UMaine system, and $10 million for the Maine State Grant Program to increase grants from 1,000 to 1,500. The budget helps lower individual property taxes by increasing the homestead exemption for all Maine homeowners, both young and old, and preserving revenue sharing to the town. It creates a higher exemption for those who receive military pensions. It preserves drugs for the elderly and Medicaid savings plans, funds waitlist for those with disabilities, increases funding for nursing homes, health care, and primary care physicians. It increases the estate tax exemption so that Maine now follows the federal exemption of $5.5 million, allowing more families to preserve family farms and homesteads. The budget also rejected the proposal of taxing nonprofits. We rejected the expansion of the sales tax of hundreds of new services and items, and we rejected the elimination of an itemized deductions, such as the mortgage interest deduction. These are the items that you will read about in the paper tomorrow, but there are over 700 pages of other items in this budget, just as important to other agencies, committees, and Maine people. Items for courts and public safety, such as 4 new drug agents, 2 new assistant attorney general drug prosecutors, 10 new assistant district attorneys, 2 new judges, 2 new law clerks, and additional marshals for court security. It protects vital forest services, sets reasonable limit on timber harvesting on public lands, and preserves our forest rangers in their duties. It extends the authority of the Department of Corrections to keep our county jails operational until a longer-term solution is found, and establishes a wage parity program for our workers in the Department of Corrections. This budget not only follows our constitutional obligation to have a balanced budget, but it does not create a hole that needs to be funded by those who come after. That is why I am asking each of my colleagues to vote in support of the budget. The budget is not about getting everything I want or what you want. We were elected to work together to find a common ground. Before closing, I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge the work of others. I want to thank all of you, each and every one of you in this chamber, for the tremendous amount of work you did in your committee to get appropriations, factual details, report back. I want to thank the OFPR staff and staff of both the Democrat and Republican offices for the thousands of hours they worked on the budget. I also want to take a moment to thank leadership on both sides of the aisle for their willingness to stay at the table and work out a compromise amendment. But most importantly, I want to thank the President of the Senate. If it was not for his strength, perseverance, and leadership, when times became extremely difficult and negative, we would not be in this posture today. He held steady and weathered the storm. I want you to know that I stand here today, albeit in silence due to protocol, but please know I am applauding you.
Chair recognizes Senator from Kennebec, Senator Gates.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. And with the Senate, I'm too joyous and rising in support of the pending motion. And particularly want to emphasize the last point that my good friend, the Senator from York, made about your leadership, Mr. President, over the last several weeks in the face of the storms that frankly were completely unnecessary. But thank you for your leadership. I also want to thank my colleagues from the Senate and the Appropriations Committee, Senator Hamper, for his solid leadership throughout these many months. His values he was never willing to move away from, and for his sense of humor. And also to my good friend from York, Senator Valentino, for her dogged advocacy for what she believes in, her pragmatism, and her incredible organization. To pass the two-thirds budget the best of times is easy. This is my second time on the Appropriations Committee. First time was in the 125th, when one party controlled all three branches here, if you will. But even then it wasn't easy. So in divided government, it's even more so. Two political parties, 186 individual legislators, trying to find that right balance has been elusive. Every 2 years, it seems we play out our version of Goldilocks and the Three Bears, trying to find a soup that's not too hot, not too cold, but it's just right. And I think that we can all agree that although this soup took way too long to cook, we are getting it done. I hope all of the colleagues in the chamber will support this motion. Thank you, Mr. President.
It is now the pleasure of the Senate to adopt Senate Amendment D. Vote. Chair recognizes the Senator from Cumberland, Senator Cole.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I present Senate Amendment C with the filing number of S289 to Committee Amendment A and move its adoption, and I wish to speak to my motion.
The Senator from Cumberland, Senator Cole, presents Senate Amendment C with the filing number of S289, Committee Amendment A, and moves its adoption. The Secretary will read Senate Amendment C.
Senate Amendment C has been
Chair says Senator from Cumberland, Senator Cole, moves the further reading of Senate Amendment. He dispenses with it. Senator may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President, and I am very aware that it's getting late, and all of my colleagues here in the Senate are tired. So I just want to speak for a few moments about why this amendment is important to me. My family and I started attending a church in Portland about 10 years ago, and one of the things that attracted us to that church was the diversity that we found there. And the diversity was mostly found in a number of people who had come from Burundi, Congo, and Rwanda. And we learned about their stories and what brought them here. And the thing that most impressed me was how driven they were to succeed, and how hard they worked to learn our language, learn our customs, adapt to our weather conditions even. I mean, I cannot imagine going from living in Africa to living in Maine, where we have, a 6-7 month happy to be here and just felt so blessed to be saved. And I was incredibly impressed by that. Over that period of time, I've been able to watch as their families have grown, as they've established lives here. Some of them have even, they've all gone to work as soon as they were able to. They've all learned English. Their children have come over from Africa if they were separated initially, and they've been successful. They've graduated from high school. If they have the ability to afford it, they've gone on to school. Usually it's SMCC because they're living at home. And attending school, and then they transfer to USM. And some of the adults even have gone back to school. And it just strikes me that considering the workforce issues that we face in this state, a frightening statistic is that over the next 2 decades, the ratio of seniors to prime working age adults, which is 25 to 64, in Maine will increase by 93%. So if you think we have a problem now, 20 years from now, we have an even bigger problem. Now, I've done my part. I have 4 children. Unfortunately, those children, 2 of them have basically already left the state. And I don't see either one of them returning, and that makes me sad. So we need to figure out how are we going to attract people to our state? How are we going to grow our workforce when we're not frankly having enough babies? And this is one way that we're going to be able to do it. I feel like encouraging these asylees to create lives here in Maine, to invest in our communities, is an investment in our future. Particularly when you see that they're actually sending their children at a faster rate than Maine-born children are going to college. And I'm not alone in this. The Maine Chamber of Commerce also supports doing what we can to help these people remain here in Maine so that they can be a part of our workforce going forward and part of our educational institutions. And so I do offer this amendment, which would allow them to obtain GA for up to 24 months. And that gives them enough time and with a little bit of security buffer so that they're able to get through their application process, get through the immigration process, if that's what they're going through, and get their work permit and be able to get themselves out of poverty. And I guarantee you that more often than not, they are doing that at a higher rate than a lot of our native leaders. And I applaud them for that, and I understand the way that a lot of amendments go regarding the budget, and I have no illusions, and I look forward to continuing this conversation at a later date.
Chair recognizes Senator from Cumberland, Senator Elmer.
Thank you, Mr. President, and ladies and gentlemen of the Senate. I first want to thank the good senator from Cumberland, Senator Vogt, for putting this amendment in. It takes a ton of courage, it takes commitment, it takes personal stories, and it takes a vision to put in an amendment like this, because her words exemplify a lot of things that I'm going to say, but also what our state is facing. Before I begin, just imagine, you don't have to imagine, but just think about it. In your community, in a couple of weeks, 1,000 people being homeless. 1,000 people being homeless. What would you be doing right now? You'd be doing everything you possibly could to make sure that we come up with a solution. And this is what this amendment is doing. It is a solution to a crisis that our state is going to be facing within weeks. Recently, our state's economist, Amanda Rector, came out and said something that was, I thought, incredibly provocative. She said, look, our rankings, they surprised us all. What do you think our rankings, our core economic rankings, being 47th in the country mean? She said, our state's population is too old. She hit it right on the head. She said it exactly to what we all know. We have a shortage of skilled workers in our state. So I ask all of you, what is our plan, what is our blueprint to attract talent to Maine? Tell me anything that we've done or are going to do that is attracting talent to Maine. We have hundreds and hundreds of immigrants coming to our state, and they want to be here. They want to start their lives. They're fleeing from their countries, being persecuted, horrible, horrible situations. And they're coming to our state because they want to be here. They want to be in our state. They want to send their children to our schools. They want to start businesses. And this is not just me talking. Go to Lewiston, go to Portland, go to Bangor. Go to start parts of our rural parts of our state. They're starting their businesses. They're starting their future because they want to be in the state of Maine. Now, there are some things that we can't fix. I wish we could. Under federal law, for 6 months, they can't work. What are we going to do about it? Are we going to put our head in the sand and say, tough luck? Or are we going to do something together? I think tonight, in this amendment, provides an opportunity. Not just an opportunity short term, but to shock all the pundits out there who said there's no way you could tackle welfare reform like this. There's no way. The sides are too separate. There's no way. Democrats think this way, Republicans think this way. Well, when I look at the 34 of you, I think of Mainers. I think of Mainers all thinking one way. Our future, our economy, our health, our compassion. Look, folks, this doesn't have to be a hard decision. I know a lot of you are spiritual. I know a lot of you have strong family roots here in Maine. I know a lot of you think about our state all the time. Tonight, with this amendment, we have something that we can do together. We can do together for our future. We can do it together for our economy. And I would just hope that when you think about what you're going to press tonight, you think about your family's history. Not one of us came here without a history. History from Europe, history from wherever your families come from. We have an opportunity to make Maine a welcoming place. This is an opportunity to do that, and I hope that we can do it together tonight. Thank you, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the Senator from Cumberland, Senator Malone.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, I rise in support of this motion. And I too want to thank the good senator from Cumberland for this proposed amendment. While back in the Education Committee, we heard hours of incredible, compelling testimony from new Mainers in support of the bill sponsored by Representative Esplin. And I'm going to read some of her testimony that she offered. We offer ministry to help immigrants with immigration paperwork. We offer a household goods ministry and clothing ministry, often helping immigrants move from the shelter into an apartment with a few basics. Our Sunday school includes an English as a second language class. I believe in what our immigrants and new Americans have to offer our Maine economy. New Mainers have a positive impact on Maine's economy and helping Maine's employers meet their workforce needs. And that indeed is the crux of the issue that we face over and over again in the Education Committee. We've been tasked with developing a workforce that will help grow our economy, and this is an important, incredibly critical aspect of that. We also had testimony in support of this from the Department of Labor, saying, and this is for the New Manor Center, the center's primary focus, working with educated immigrants and refugees who need guidance and advice regarding their various career options and who lack the requisite job readiness skills necessary to be competitive in Maine's workforce. This amendment before us provides us a way to help these passionate, dedicated, motivated new Mainers become
suggested here yet, but I will tell you that I'm interested in seeing this budget pass. I'm interested in making sure we do all we can. And we have come so far. And I'm in a position where, while I might prefer some other avenue, that I would like to compromise in order to be able to see us move forward as a group. So I want to talk a little bit about maybe my experience. My grandmother on my mother's side came here from Ireland with a potato family. Maybe some of you have heard that story from some of your grandparents or relatives. They came to Canada. That was the quickest route for them. And then a lot of them migrated south. She migrated all the way south to West Stewart's down in New Hampshire, which is probably this far over the Canadian border. Not very far. She never became a citizen here. She always thought voting was for men, not for women. So I didn't get all that political experience with her. But there are a lot of folks who came that way. There are a lot of folks who came here from Canada. There are still a lot of folks living here who have immigrated from Canada. My first husband was a Frenchman. His folks came from over here to work. And that was the time, and I can remember seeing some of these old signs in stores that said, no French need apply, or no Italians need apply. That was the way people were treated then. Up on Montjoy Hill in my city, there was a dividing line and two Catholic churches, one that the French went to and one that the Italians went to. I can imagine it was so divided. There are stories, many of us know some of these stories from our past. I went to Deering High School, and about a third of my class was Jewish. And we learned a lot about Jewish history, which was fascinating to me because it was not something that kind of came down through the families. And they learned about the MSA Lewis that left Germany in 1939 with immigrants who were fleeing from Nazi oppression. And they fled to Cuba first and were refused because Cuba had changed their rules. When they tried to land here, they thought it was going to be a very nice trip across the water. It turned out to be a great tragedy for those people because they were turned away from the United States as well. And when they went back, they finally had to go back because they were not allowed to land anywhere here. Many of them ended up, as the story goes, in concentration camps where they were killed. These people died. They went back to the persecution where they came from. And we don't want to repeat any of that, and nobody here has to repeat any of that. I think what we need to do now is remember that all of us came from somewhere. All of us came from somewhere. And there are some great people who have come to our community. And we've had a lot of these stories in front of us passed around on our table, but I would tell you as I look at these faces, I want you to know these are my neighbors. These are people I know. I know them personally. I know their children. I've been to the schools where they go to school. These are real people with real lives and real difficulties and big talents to bring to us. And I'm hoping that we're going to be able to move forward. I'm hoping that we're going to make sure that as we provide these services, we're not doing it for folks who are here illegally, and this bill does that, but to make sure those people who are lawfully present, who have done things the way they're supposed to do them, who have received the paperwork that they need to receive, and are simply waiting for our federal partners to act, would be able to stay fed and housed until they're able to go to work and contribute to our community. Asylum seekers who come here have been fleeing unsafe and very dangerous conditions, and they've already suffered unfathomable hardships. And they want to come here for a path to what we have and participate in the American dream. And I really hope you'll join in supporting this amendment in order to see if we can get a hand out and hand to this great group of people. Thank you.
Chair recognizes the senator from Mount Senator Gregory.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, I rise this evening to speak in favor of this pending amendment. And I speak partly in my own voice, but partly in the voice of Representative Greg Hickman from the House. But I think we share a common concern. I believe, and I think we all do, that every person in this chamber is a proud American. Our ancestors come from different places. They practice different faiths. They eat different meals. But we share one nation and one set of ideals. We share a belief in the greatness of our country. A belief that what makes us a great nation isn't our sameness, but our diversity. Today, for example, in the hallway of this great building, we saw some of Maine's diversity. There are people here who hail from Angola, from Burundi, from Canada, from Mexico, the Democratic Republic of Congo, Brazzaville, from Ireland, Djibouti, Mauritania, Rwanda, Somalia, and many others I don't even know. And the quote represents these people hail from the continent of my ancestors who did not come to these shores by choice. Ancestors who did not come to these shores fleeing anything. Still, I love America more than any other country on earth, and I wish to be nowhere else. We all hear, and I think we know very well, the words, quote, give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free, the wretched refuse of your teeming shore. Send these, the homeless, tempest-tossed, to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door. I'm certain, Mr. President, that every person here knows that these closing lines of Emma Lazarus' 1883 sonnet entitled The New Colossus are emblazoned on a bronze plaque on the pedestal of the Statue of Liberty placed there in 1903. Mr. President, we are a nation of immigrants. Let us never forget. As Thomas Jefferson challenged us, shall we refuse the unhappy refugees from distress that hospitality which the savages of the wilderness extended to our fathers reviving this land? Shall oppressed humanity find asylum on this globe? We are a nation of immigrants. Let us be reminded by the international community through the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, for which the United States voted, that everyone has the right to seek and to enjoy in other countries asylum from persecution. Mr. President, we are a nation of immigrants. Let us never forget. Throughout this conversation, we have heard arguments that we can't even afford to take care of our own, we can't help our own disadvantaged, our elderly, and our infirm, so we can't help these new people. And for me, I say, why not? Why can't we? From the long perspective of human history, from before the times of the pharaohs to now, the wealthiest nation ever to exist on earth, can we really claim poverty and good faith? Throughout this conversation, we have heard fears like this. They don't look like us. They don't speak our language. They worship differently than we do. They have strange ways. They can't be trusted. They just come here to take from us, to pick our pockets, to live off the dole. If we haven't walked in their shoes, who are we then to judge? Mr. President, men and women here in the Senate, have we forgotten what makes us human? Have we forgotten what makes us humane? Have we forgotten the purpose of our government? Our purpose for existing, the principles that guide us and guide our work in this chamber are laid out in our state's constitution. We have formed the government of the state of Maine to establish justice, ensure tranquility, promote our common welfare, and secure to ourselves and our prosperity the blessings of liberty. Is it not the welfare of all of God's children our common welfare? Isn't treating all of our residents with fairness and equality indeed justice? Isn't our responsibility to truly secure the blessings of liberty for those who sought refuge amongst us, fleeing tyranny and civil war? And so in closing, I'm going to turn this script around. I'm not going to call these people we're talking about immigrants or asylum seekers or legal non-citizens. I'm going to exactly what they are. Human beings seeking a better life in the greatest country on earth. How can we in good conscience throw a decent human being out on the streets because our sometimes cold and insensitive language around welfare cheats and illegals has been repeated so often that we've lost our ability to see the human beings behind these labels? In order to live with my conscience, I cannot, ought not, will not vote against human beings who need our help. I cannot, I ought not, I will not pit them against other human beings who need our help. I cannot, ought not, will not fear what happens in the ballot box in the next election. Mr. Speaker, it's a privilege to be able to vote on this amendment tonight. I urge us to accept this. Thank you, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the Senator from the Undershot, Senator Libby.
Thank you, Mr. President and women of the Senate. Spent a lot of time in this body talking about welfare reform, the need for more and better welfare reform, year after year after year. We work on compromise legislation that ends up being defeated because of politics. And we bring it back year after year after year. And before us, we have a decision to make that is quite out of the scope of welfare reform. And then we're talking about a handout